Hey guys, day 4 Sons of Thunder podcast. I hope you have been enjoying it as much as we have been. We've been in the different events of Holy Week leading up to the crucifixion and resurrection. And today is Thursday. It's Maundy Thursday, wow. The day that we typically think about that is his last meal with his disciples. And so this tends to be a pretty somber, kind of thought as Jesus now has this meal with the men that have been with him for so long, right? Yeah. It's definitely getting close to the end. And as we think about like where you can find this in the Gospels, in every different Gospel to understand a little bit more about it. But I like where John chapter 13, we talk about before the meal, Jesus washes his disciples' feet. And at the beginning of John 13, it says it was just before Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and to go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. So it says the evening meal was in progress. The devil had already prompted Judas. And Jesus knew, in verse 3, that the Father had put all things under his power and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and began to wash his disciples' feet. And that word "so" is really important. So Jesus knew where he was going. He knew that all authority was his. He knew that he was heading back to be with God and going to be in full glory again after his crucifixion, resurrection, and ascension. And so because he knew those things, he took off his outer garment to wash his disciples' feet. In Philippians, it talks about how he humbled himself to death. Yeah. Well, this is where he humbles himself to wash his disciples' feet. And two of the people that he washed feet were Peter and Judas. And Jesus knew when he washed their feet that Peter was going to deny him and Judas was going to betray him. I know you hate feet.
It's disgusting.
So, what do you think about it?
Well, first of all, I think this is the one of the things, if I could change the Bible, you don't want to, but, feet are just so weird. My daughter came in last night. She decided to run outside with no shoes on, what kids do. And then she got on the couch and the bottom of her feet were so gross and nasty. I was like, no, go wash those things, right? I don't want anything to do with those things. And it was even worse back then, right? Mm-hmm. Because they were walking around and there was they didn't have Nikes, right? They didn't have Jordans like I have, right? Which I have I love my Jordans, right? Because they cover my feet, right? Because I don't want people seeing my feet, looking at my feet, touching my feet. So to me, I don't think there is not many things that shows humility more than washing somebody's feet, especially in that particular situation. First of all, you got to get down, right? You got to get down. You got to actually have the posture of humility to wash somebody's feet. You smell things that's happening there, right? That smell that's there, and then you're touching it like he didn't say he put gloves on, right? He just touched it with his hands. He touched the dirt and the grime and probably the poop, right? All that stuff that was there on those feet, he touched all of them and washed them. You've been to foot washing services, I assume, before, right? I've been in foot washing services where, as a youth pastor, you have to do whatever the boss tells you to do, right? So the boss one time said, hey, we're going to have a foot washing service. Man, I worked my way up to this. I was like, all right, man, I know it. It's in the Bible and you're my leader. And I was really like, oh my gosh, this whole thing. And then so I was like, all right, I'm going to wash these people's feet. It's what Jesus did. So people are taking off their dress socks and stuff at the service, it's so gross. And then this one guy says, all right, now let me wash your feet. And I was like, oh man, I didn't prepare for this. I didn't prepare for this at all. And he was like, no, I need to do it. He was one of my youth workers. I need to do it. So I didn't I didn't get a pedicure. You know what I mean? Right. I didn't tan the feet. Yeah. I didn't do anything. It was just there. And I feel like honestly, even all right, so washing somebody's feet, it was an act of humility for sure, but it was still like a job. Yeah. But then there was something about when this guy said, I don't have to do it. I just want to wash your feet as well. Yeah. I think to me that was the next act of humility because he didn't have to do it. Yeah. He didn't have a boss telling him to do it, right? Yep. There wasn't a service set up for him to do that. Mm-hmm. It was for me to do that. So I think that's where Jesus is at here. I agree. It wasn't somebody telling he didn't do it because it was on the agenda. Yep. Right? He did it to show humility, which is just blows my mind.
And something you just said also made me think about what we do often. When that guy went to wash your feet, you were thinking, I wasn't prepared. I actually didn't try to clean up
Yeah.
first.
That's right.
And don't we do that with
Yep.
Jesus? Like, don't we try to like, all right, Jesus, I'll invite you in after I try to clean up my life.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And that's obviously not.
How many people hire maids at the house and
Yeah.
they clean up before
Yeah.
the maid gets there?
Yeah.
You know, that's you don't.
Sorry. That's another conversation for a different
another
podcast.
yes.
Another thing, so as we think about the Lord's Supper, after Jesus washes his disciples' feet and, then obviously tells them to go and do likewise. After the meal, in Luke chapter 22, it says that Jesus, obviously this is where we get communion, because he says this is the bread. But then he takes a very specific cup. It says after supper, he took a cup and said, this cup is the new covenant in my blood. And what that is really important, because there were 4 cups that they would drink during the Passover. And the third cup is the cup of redemption. That's the cup that Jesus took. He took the third cup right after the meal, and he said the cup of redemption that everybody has celebrated for thousands of years about their redemption from Egypt, their redemption from slavery. Jesus says, this cup of redemption is the new covenant in my blood. My blood purchases your redemption. And that, I just think, is a really powerful picture of what Jesus did that we don't often think about, right, when we go through communion. And then from there, they go to the garden, and as we think about where he prays, and I thought your sermon on just his obedience and that connection was such a powerful message. But then Judas shows up, betrays Jesus with a kiss. And I want to end today in John chapter 18, because there's just like such a powerful moment when Jesus kind of talks to the people that are coming to arrest him. And so it says in John chapter 18, verse 4, Jesus, knowing all that was going to happen to him, went out and asked them, who is it that you want? Jesus of Nazareth, they replied. I am he, Jesus said. And Judas the traitor was standing there with them. And when Jesus said, I am he, they drew back and fell to the ground. They couldn't stand under the glory, right?
I love it.
And we can also talk about the fact that Jesus said, I am he. And talk about that.
Yeah. Oh, it's the I am statement.
Yeah, totally.
It's as when Moses there at the burning bush and said, who should I say sent me? Tell him I am sent you, right? And now he's connecting that right here.
I am God.
Yes, that's right. I am. That's it. I am. And I am. And then everybody falls down. Oh, I don't know. Do you think it was loud? Do you think it was just like the bravado? Like, what do you think?
I maybe it would have been loud. I just like my mind goes to just like this crushing weight that they literally could not stand anymore. But then they get up and proceed to arrest him.
They still did it. They still did it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You would think, wait, why did we all just fall down?
Right.
You think they would have thought that and walked
Exactly.
away, but it's insane.
Yeah. So lesson for us as like, let's obviously be aware of God's glory and respond to it appropriately. But let's walk in the redemption that he purchased us and serve as he served. Why don't you close us out today? Yeah, let's close out by talking about the things that we talk about Generations Church, right? To know God, grow together, go to the generations. Remember, you can join us. When we're talking about Thursday right now, right? Yep. So this is Thursday. You should be watching this sequentially, which means tomorrow we'll have a Good Friday service. We'd love for you to join us at that. All of our information, generationsbrandon.com/Easter. In our church, we exist to know God, grow together, go to the generations. So bring the thunder. See you guys.